Folks, let's talk about human beings. You ever notice how people will believe anything? As long as it sounds just complicated enough to confuse them or just simple enough to comfort them. You tell people the universe is 13.8 billion years old, made of dark matter and expanding faster than your ex's credit card debt, and they'll go, nah, too hard. But tell them their horoscope says Mercury is in retrograde, so that's why they back their car into a shopping cart. Oh, that makes sense. People will buy crystals to align their chakras. Crystals! You know what a crystal really is. It's a shiny rock. A rock. Meanwhile, the same people don't trust science, but they'll rub a piece of quartz on their forehead like it's going to fix their taxes. And don't get me started on chain emails and internet rumors. Remember when people believed Bill Gates was putting microchips in vaccines? Yeah, because the guy who already makes money every time you touch a keyboard really needs to track whether you went to Walmart today. Here's the truth, people don't want reality. Reality's boring, it doesn't sparkle. They want magic, mystery, and something that explains why their Wi-Fi isn't working. So they'll believe the silliest things. And you know what? That's good news for anyone selling self-help books, diet pills, or miracle hair growth lotion. Humans, best customers in the universe. Dumb as hell, but loyal. You ever notice how people, when faced with something complicated, immediately throw up their hands like they're being asked to solve advanced nuclear physics? It doesn't matter what it is, science, medicine, technology. If it requires more than 10 seconds of thinking, they'd rather shove it in a drawer and look for the easy answer. That's why people cling to simple or magical explanations, not because those explanations are true, but because they're convenient. And if there's one thing people love more than comfort food, it's comfort thinking. They don't want the truth. They want something that feels like the truth without having to work for it. Take the universe, for example. Astronomers spend decades measuring light years, studying radiation, crunching equations so complicated they make Einstein sweat from the grave. And they tell us the universe is billions of years old, constantly expanding, and mostly made up of dark matter. And people, they'll say, nah, that's too much. I don't get it. Must be wrong. But you give them a story about a giant invisible man creating everything in 6 days. And suddenly they're nodding like bobbleheads on a dashboard. Because it's simple, easy to remember. 6 days, no math required. People love magical answers, even if those answers sound like they were written by a drunk screenwriter with a deadline. Think about it. Evolution says human beings developed over millions of years through natural selection. It's supported by fossils, DNA evidence from every corner of biology. And people still look at it and go, nah, I don't buy it. But tell those same people that a talking snake convinced a naked woman to eat an apple. And that's the reason their kids can't behave in school, and they'll believe it like it's the nightly news. That's because magical explanations come with drama, characters, and a plot twist. Science comes with charts, data, and words you have to look up. And people don't like dictionaries. They like bedtime stories. Even in everyday life, people prefer magical thinking. They'd rather believe their car broke down because Mercury is in retrograde than because they haven't changed the oil in 2 years. They'll say, oh, the energy is just off today, instead of admitting they forgot to pay the electric bill. Magical explanations are like a Band-Aid for the brain. They cover up the wound without fixing anything, but at least they look decorative. It's a lot more fun to think the universe is conspiring against you than to realize you're just lazy and irresponsible. And don't even get me started on horoscopes. People read those little paragraphs in the newspaper written by some underpaid intern and think, wow, this is totally me. It'll say something like, you may encounter a challenge today, but with strength and determination, you'll overcome it. Of course you will! That's not prophecy, that's common sense! You could tell anyone that, from a CEO to a guy who flips burgers, and it would still apply. But people eat it up because it's vague enough to fit every situation. Science, on the other hand, says your personality is shaped by genetics, environment, and lived experience. And suddenly that's boring. People don't want a logical breakdown of their character. They want to believe Jupiter being slightly to the left of Saturn is the reason they yelled at their boss. And what about ghosts? Oh, people love ghosts. You tell them about energy conservation, about the laws of thermodynamics, about how matter and energy can just vanish into the ether, and they'll stare at you like you're reciting calculus. But tell them their dead uncle is knocking cups off the shelf to send a message from the afterlife, and suddenly it all makes sense. Of course, it's Uncle Jimmy. Who else would move the salt shaker? They want magic. They want the unseen, the unexplained, the mysterious, because mystery makes life exciting. Science makes life logical, and logical doesn't sell nearly as many tickets to ghost tours. People will pay hundreds of dollars for psychics to read their aura. Aura! The only aura most people have is body odor and poor decision-making skills. But hey, slap a little candlelight and incense on it, add some mysticism, and suddenly you've got people handing over their life savings. Meanwhile, the real explanation for why their love life sucks is because they keep dating people they meet at gas stations at 2 a.m. But no, it's the aura. Has to be. Even in medicine, people lean on magical thinking. A doctor spends 12 years in school studying anatomy, chemistry, biology, and finally prescribes you a treatment. But you know what people do. They say, now I'll try essential oils instead. Essential oils! Lavender isn't going to cure pneumonia, but people will rub it on their chest like it's holy water. Or they'll drink a green juice with kale, ginger, and lemon and think it's going to fix cancer. Meanwhile, the guy who actually studied the disease is ignored because kale is easier to pronounce than chemotherapy. And people will believe in healing crystals. You know what a crystal really is? It's a fancy rock. You could pick one up in your backyard, polish it, and someone will pay $20 because they think it balances their energy. If rocks had that much power, geologists would be the richest people on Earth. Instead, they're stuck teaching college kids who are just trying to pass lab without breaking a beaker. But again, a shiny rock is magical. DNA sequencing is not. It's not just religion, astrology, or alternative medicine. It's everywhere. Think about conspiracy theories. Those are just magical explanations dressed up in paranoia. People don't want to believe the world is random, chaotic, and complicated. No, they want to believe there's a grand plan. A secret organization, somebody pulling the strings. The Illuminati, the lizard people, the shadow government. Anything but the truth that the world is mostly run by incompetence, greed, and people who can't even remember their email passwords. You tell people climate change is caused by greenhouse gases, fossil fuels, deforestation, and decades of human activity. Nah, too complicated. But tell them the weather is being controlled by billionaire space lasers, and suddenly you've got their full attention. Because magical explanations are easier. They give people something to point at, something to hate, something simple. Reality requires nuance. Magic requires faith, and faith takes less effort than learning. Even history gets this treatment. You explain to people that civilizations rise and fall due to economics, politics, environmental stress, and cultural shifts. They'll zone out halfway through the sentence. But you give them a magical myth, like Atlantis sinking beneath the waves because the gods were angry, and they're hooked. They'll watch documentaries about it for hours. They don't want to know about trade routes and agricultural systems. They want curses and lost cities. History is dull, myth is magical. And of course, technology, people don't understand technology at all, so they just invent magical explanations. You ever hear someone say their phone listens to their thoughts? No, your phone isn't psychic. It's just collecting your data from everything you've already clicked, tapped, or said out loud. But people would rather believe their phone has ESP. I was just thinking about pizza, and then I got an ad for pizza? Yeah, because you Google pizza every night at 2 a.m., buddy. That's not magic, that's an algorithm. This is why marketing works. Advertisers know people want magical solutions. They'll sell you toothpaste that widens your smile in just one use. Lotion that makes you look 10 years younger overnight. Shampoo that revitalizes your aura. Nobody wants to hear the truth. That staying healthy requires discipline, time, and effort. They'd rather believe in a quick fix, a magic pill, or a miracle product. And companies love it because gullibility pays the bills. At the end of the day, people love magical explanations because reality is exhausting. Reality requires study, patience, understanding, and sometimes admitting that things are out of our control. But magic makes you feel like you've got it all figured out. Even if your explanation is completely wrong, it feels better to say, the universe has a plan, than I don't know. And humans really, really hate saying, I don't know. People will believe anything if it comes with a little sparkle, a horoscope, or some mystical sounding nonsense. You ever notice that? All it takes is a crystal, a vague prediction or a superstition your grandmother made up, and people start nodding like it's gospel truth. Human beings will reject science, mathematics, and centuries of research. But if someone tells them, your aura looks purple today, that means you're going to meet a tall stranger. Suddenly they're planning their wedding. Let's start with horoscopes. The daily horoscope, humanity's favorite bedtime story for adults. People swear by this stuff. They open the newspaper, or more likely now a sketchy app that looks like it was coded by a 14-year-old in his basement, and they'll read something like, this week you will face challenges, but with confidence you will overcome them. Well, no kidding! That's not prophecy, that's just life. What are they going to say instead? This week you will sit on the couch, eat potato chips, and absolutely nothing will happen. Of course not, because people wouldn't buy it. They like the illusion that the stars are out there scheduling their appointments. And the signs, don't get me started. People define themselves by their star sign as if it's their DNA. I can't help yelling at you, I'm an Aries. I'm not lazy, I'm just a Taurus. No, you're not a Taurus, you're just a jackass who doesn't like cleaning the kitchen. People hide behind astrology like it's a hall pass for bad behavior. If they were late to work, it's not because they overslept, it's because Saturn was in retrograde. You hear that? The planets are out there sabotaging your alarm clock. What a convenient excuse. And what's with Mercury in retrograde? Every time something goes wrong, car breaks down, computer crashes, your Wi-Fi won't connect, suddenly it's Mercury's fault. Mercury? A rock floating in space millions of miles away is apparently messing with your Gmail account. You're telling me a planet the size of a potato is responsible for why your ex didn't text you back? No, your ex didn't text you back because they don't like you. Nothing to do with Mercury. Now let's talk about crystals. People pay hundreds of dollars for healing crystals. You've seen these, right? Little shiny rocks that allegedly fix everything from anxiety to bad credit. They say, this one aligns your chakras, this one brings wealth, this one attracts love. Oh, really? If rocks had the power to bring wealth, miners would all be billionaires. Instead, they're barely making rent while some guy in yoga pants is selling polished quartz to suburban moms for $50 a pop. And love. If you think a crystal is going to make someone fall in love with you, you don't need a rock. You need therapy, or maybe deodorant. No crystal is going to fix your personality, buddy. You can wear a whole bucket of amethyst around your neck, and you'll still be alone on Valentine's Day if you act like a creep. But people swear by this nonsense. They'll say, oh, I felt my energy shift when I held this stone. Yeah, you felt your energy shift because you just spent half your paycheck on a rock that looks like it belongs in a fish tank. That's not energy, that's regret. And then there are the superstitions, the little rituals humans cling to like a security blanket. Walk under a ladder. Bad luck. Break a mirror. 7 years of misery. Spill salt. Better throw it over your shoulder or the devil himself is coming for dinner. Who makes this stuff up? Imagine explaining that to an alien. Yeah, I had a bad decade because one morning I dropped my shaving mirror. That alien is flying straight back home, thinking Earth is an asylum. Black cats, oh, the poor black cats. Perfectly good animals treated like little furry omens. If a black cat crosses your path, it's bad luck. Why? Because some medieval peasant decided cats were witches. Meanwhile, the real bad luck is stepping in cat puke at 3 in the morning, but nobody mentions that. And don't forget Friday the 13th, a whole day that terrifies people because of a number. Airplanes skip the 13th row. Hotels skip the 13th floor. People cancel weddings and flights. You think the universe cares what day it is? Do you think atoms rearrange themselves differently because the calendar says utter teen? No, it's just Friday. The only unlucky thing about Friday the 13th is the price of movie tickets when they release another bad horror film. Superstitions show up everywhere. Athletes are the worst. Some baseball player won't change his socks for an entire season because he thinks it gives him luck. Newsflash, it's not the socks, it's the steroids. A basketball player bounces the ball exactly 7 times before a free throw, convinced that number is magic. It's not magic, it's a habit. But hey, if it helps you sleep at night, knock yourself out. Just wash the damn socks. Gamblers love superstition too. They bring lucky charms to casinos, rub the dice, wear the same shirt, as if that's going to change the house edge. The casino doesn't care about your rabbit's foot. The slot machine is programmed to rob you. That's not bad luck, that's math. But math is boring, so people believe in rituals instead. And religion, oh boy, religion is like superstition's older, more organized brother. Crosses, beads, holy water. Prayers to win football games. People ask God for parking spots. You think the creator of the universe is rearranging space-time so you can park closer to target? If that's true, then God's got terrible priorities. The thing is, horoscopes, crystals, and superstitions all work on the same principle. They give people a sense of control. Life is random, chaotic, confusing. Nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow, and that terrifies people. So they cling to little rituals, shiny rocks, or star charts because it makes them feel like they've got an inside scoop on the universe. They don't. But the illusion is comforting. It's like a cosmic security blanket. And it's profitable. Oh man, is it profitable? The horoscope industry alone is worth billions. Crystals are a whole economy. People will pay absurd amounts of money for spiritual guidance that could be replaced with a good night's sleep and a cup of coffee. Psychics, astrologers, tarot readers, they're not mystics, they're business people. They know how gullible humans are. And humans, bless their gullible hearts, keep lining up for more. You know what really kills me? People will laugh at ancient myths, call them primitive and silly, but then they'll check their horoscope before a job interview. How's that any different? The gods control my fate has just been rebranded as the stars control my fate. Same nonsense, new packaging. People haven't evolved that much. They've just switched from temples to Instagram accounts with zodiac memes. And the irony is, the people who fall for this stuff aren't stupid. Some of them are doctors, lawyers, engineers, highly educated. But when it comes to their personal lives, suddenly they think carrying a lucky crystal is going to help them land a promotion. You've got surgeons who can rebuild arteries with a robot, but before they start the operation, they'll check if it's a full moon. Imagine that. Sorry, I can't remove your appendix today. Venus is out of alignment. The truth is, nonsense is easy to believe because it feels special. A horoscope makes you feel unique, like the universe is paying attention to you. A crystal makes you feel like you're carrying magic in your pocket. A superstition makes you feel like you've got a secret trick to beat fate. Reality doesn't give you that. Reality just gives you bills, traffic, and lower back pain. No wonder people choose nonsense. It's prettier. You ever notice how lies and nonsense spread like wildfire, but the truth limps along like it's got a busted knee? It's amazing. You can spend your whole life studying, researching, collecting data, running experiments, publishing papers, and all it takes is one clown with a Wi-Fi connection and a Facebook account to say, vaccines turn you into a lizard, and suddenly half the country is buying heat lamps. Misinformation spreads because it's fast, it's flashy, and it's fun. Facts are boring. Nobody wants boring. People want fireworks, not footnotes. Think about it. A scientist says climate change is a complex process involving carbon dioxide, methane, industrial emissions, and feedback loops that disrupt weather patterns over decades. And the average person hears that and their brain goes on vacation. Too many syllables. But then some guy on YouTube says, snowball in winter, so global warming is fake. And people cheer like it's the Super Bowl. One snowball beats 1,000 research papers because the snowball is easy. Easy always wins. And the internet, the internet is the best thing that ever happened to misinformation. Before, you had to at least print a pamphlet or run a sketchy radio show. Now you just make a meme with Comic Sans font, slap a stock photo on it, and boom, millions of shares. People will believe anything if it fits in a colorful box with a funny caption. Some guy can post, bananas cure cancer, with a picture of a smiling monkey. And suddenly there's a run on bananas at the supermarket. Never mind the doctors, never mind the oncologist. Nope, it's bananas now. That's the cure, because a meme said so. You ever notice that true information usually starts with, well, it depends, or it's complicated? Nobody wants that. People don't like complicated. They want certainty, even if it's completely wrong. A fact is like broccoli, good for you, full of nutrients, but nobody gets excited about it. Misinformation is like cotton candy, sweet, colorful, melts instantly, and leaves you with nothing but sticky fingers and diabetes. And people love cotton candy. Take conspiracy theories. Those are misinformation with a Hollywood budget. They're like action movies for paranoid people. The truth is that governments are usually inefficient, bumbling, can't even fix potholes. But the misinformation says governments are secretly running underground bunkers, faking the moon landing, and injecting nanobots into your bloodstream. Oh yeah, that's more exciting than the truth. The truth is boring, paperwork, budgets, incompetence. But say there are lizard people in the Senate, and suddenly you've got subscribers, book sales, and a Netflix deal. And look at how fast misinformation spreads compared to corrections. Somebody tweets, celebrity found dead, and it goes viral in 5 minutes. Turns out it was fake. The correction comes out hours later, buried in the back alley of the internet. Nobody cares. They already moved on. Misinformation is like gossip. It travels at the speed of light. The truth is like a library notice. It shows up weeks late in tiny print, and nobody reads it. You see it every day with health trends. One blog post says drinking celery juice cures everything from acre to bankruptcy, and the next morning there's a line outside Whole Foods. Meanwhile, the doctor who says there's no evidence for that gets ignored because evidence doesn't come with a smoothie recipe. People don't want no evidence. They want green juice that promises to make them immortal. And look at the anti-vaccine crowd. Decades of medical research, billions of doses, lives saved, diseases eradicated. But one lady on Facebook says, My cousin's friend's neighbor's dog got sick after a shot, and suddenly it's a movement. Why? Because it's emotional, because it's dramatic, because it's a story. Facts don't come in story form, they come in dry language. But misinformation is a soap opera. People eat that up. And you can't underestimate how entertaining nonsense can be. Earth is flat. That's a perfect example. Every scientist on Earth has explained gravity, planetary orbits, satellite images, thousands of years of astronomy, and still, people believe the Earth is flat. Why? Because it's fun to think you're in on a secret. It's fun to believe you know something they don't want you to know. Believing the Earth is flat makes some people feel special. That's all misinformation really is, ego candy. I'm smarter than the experts. I've figured out the truth. No, you haven't. You've just been outsmarted by a guy selling tea, shirts with a dome on them. The real kicker is that misinformation usually comes in short, snappy sound bites. Vaccines bad. Climate hoax. Earth flat. That's it, 3 words. Facts. Oh, those come with entire textbooks. You need diagrams, experiments, years of study. And who's got time for that when you've got TikTok videos? People want instant answers. They want it fast, they want it simple, and they want it entertaining. That's why misinformation wins. Look at diet fads. Scientists say balanced nutrition, exercise in moderation. Boring. Nobody wants to hear that. But some influencer says, eat only bacon for 30 days and you'll lose weight, and people line up at the butcher. Why? Because it's crazy. Because it's exciting. Because it's a hell of a lot easier to eat bacon than to actually balance a diet. The fact is hard work. The lie is a cheat code. People always take the cheat code. And the media doesn't help. News outlets love misinformation because it gets clicks. A headline that says, study shows nuanced results, doesn't sell. But scientists shocked by new discovery does. They twist it, exaggerate it, and dumb it down until it's barely related to the actual study. By the time it reaches the public, it's misinformation with a suit on. Sports are no different. You hear fans say, my team lost because the refs were paid off. That's misinformation. The truth is your team just sucks, but nobody wants to believe their team sucks. It's easier to believe in a conspiracy. Entertaining too. Blame it on the refs. Blame it on the league. Blame it on aliens if you have to. Anything but admit the truth your quarterback couldn't throw a ball into a swimming pool. Even kids get this early. Remember in school, the teacher tries to explain history, economic shifts, political tensions, social structures. That's the truth. But the misinformation is way cooler. Napoleon was short. Wrong. The man was average height. But the lie is funny, easy to remember, and paints a picture. So it's stuck for centuries. Misinformation wins because it's got personality. Facts are dry. Lies are juicy. And once misinformation is out there, it never dies. People keep recycling it. It's like junk mail. No matter how many times you unsubscribe, it comes back. The same dumb myths get repeated every generation. Carrots give you night vision. Cracking your knuckles gives you arthritis. Einstein failed math. None of it true. But it keeps coming back because it's catchy. Misinformation is like a bad pop song. Annoying, repetitive, but stuck in your head forever. The really funny part is people actually prefer misinformation even when they know it's wrong. They'll say, yeah, I know horoscopes aren't real, but it's fun. Fun. That's the word. That's the whole game. People don't care if it's true, they care if it's entertaining. That's why half the internet is nonsense. Entertainment first. Accuracy somewhere around last place. So yeah, misinformation spreads faster than facts because facts are vegetables and misinformation is dessert. And human beings, left to their own devices, will always choose the cake over the broccoli. Doesn't matter if the cake is made of lies, they'll still eat it and they'll go back for seconds. You know what I figured out? People don't want reality. Oh no, reality is too harsh, too messy, too goddamn inconvenient. People want comfort. They want a nice little pillow for their brain, something soft they can rest on while the world collapses around them. And when comfort doesn't cut it, they want something to blame. Somebody or something they can point to and say it's their fault. Not me, never me. Reality is bills piling up, jobs that suck, bodies that age, and a planet that doesn't care if you're having a bad day. Reality is complicated. You need facts, effort, and sometimes the terrifying admission that you have no control over what happens. People hate that. People don't want to hear life is random chaos. They want to hear it's all part of the plan. Doesn't matter whose plan. God's plan, the universe's plan, or even their cat's plan, as long as somebody's in charge pulling the strings. That's comforting. Take religion. People don't flock to religion because it's factual. Nobody sits in church because they checked the data and said, yup, looks good, makes sense, 100% verified. No, they go because it feels nice. You die, you get heaven. That's way more comforting than the reality you rot in the ground. The worms eat your eyeballs, and that's the end of the show. Which one would you rather believe? The comfy lie wins every time. Even with day-to-day stuff, people would rather have comfort than truth. Look at diets. The truth is simple: eat less junk, move your ass, and maybe you'll live a little longer. But no one wants that. Too hard, too real. They want magic shakes, detox teas, and miracle pills. They want to believe they can eat donuts for breakfast, tacos for lunch, cake for dinner, and still lose 20 pounds by Friday if they just sprinkle chia seeds on top. That's comfort. That's fantasy. And people will hand over their credit card for it. And when comfort fails, when the fantasy cracks, that's when blame comes in. Oh, people love blame. It's never their fault. Always someone else's. If they fail a test, it's the teacher's fault. If they get fired, it's the boss's fault. If their marriage falls apart, it's the in-laws, the weather, Mercury retrograde, maybe even the dog. Anybody but themselves. Nobody ever says, yeah, I'm the one who screwed up. That's reality, and reality is uncomfortable. Blame is like comfort food for the ego. Politicians know this better than anyone. They thrive on comfort and blame. They never tell you the reality that the system is broken, complicated, and nobody has all the answers. Instead, they give you easy comforts. We'll fix everything. And they give you easy targets. It's those people's fault. Immigrants, elites, foreigners, the other party. Always someone to blame. Never you, the voter. Politicians hand out blame like candy because they know the public eats it up. And it's not just politics. Look at sports fans. Their team loses, and suddenly it's the referees, the weather, the field, the travel schedule. Anything but admitting the obvious truth: their team just sucks. But that hurts. That's reality. So instead, they scream about the refs being biased. That's comforting. It's not your team's fault. It's a conspiracy. That way, you can still wear your jersey with pride while your team finishes last place. The workplace is the same. People blame toxic culture, bad management, poor communication. And hey, sometimes that's true. But sometimes the reality is you just show up late. Take 2-hour lunches and spend more time scrolling on your phone than actually working. But who wants to admit that? Now, it's easier to blame the boss. Blaming the boss is free therapy. Kids learn this early. You ask a kid why they didn't do their homework, and they'll come up with the wildest excuses. The dog ate it. My little brother spilled juice on it. Aliens abducted my backpack. Anything but the truth. I was watching cartoons and didn't care. From the start, humans are wired for comfort and blame. It's the operating system of the species. Even in relationships, blame is everywhere. Couples fight not because of what actually happened, but because they'd rather blame each other than face reality. Reality is, sometimes you're just not compatible. Sometimes love doesn't last. But no one says that. Instead, they say, you ruined everything. It's your fault we're miserable. People would rather pin the entire downfall of a relationship on who forgot to buy milk than admit the scary truth. Sometimes things just don't work out. And look at superstitions. That's comfort and blame rolled into one shiny package. You spilled salt. No problem. Just toss some over your shoulder. Comfort. You had bad luck. Must have been because you walked under a ladder or broke a mirror. Blame. Never because you made a stupid choice. Humans have built entire traditions around avoiding reality with little rituals. They're like security blankets for grown-ups. The health industry runs on comfort and blame too. People don't want to hear that their health problems are due to years of bad habits. No, they want a magic supplement. They want to blame toxins or bad vibe is instead of diet and exercise, it's not the burgers and soda every day, it's that their chakras are blocked. Yeah, that's it. Blame the chakras. Much easier than blaming the donuts. Even with technology, people prefer blame to reality. Phone stops working. Must be the phone company's fault. Internet is slow. It's a conspiracy. The truth. You've got 47 devices streaming cat videos at the same time on a cheap router you bought in 2009. But nah, blame the company. That's easier. That's more fun. And comfort is everywhere. Think about social media filters. That's literal visual comfort. You don't want to face the reality of what you look like at 6 a.m. No problem. Here's a filter that makes you look like you slept for a week, lost 10 pounds, and got airbrushed by a professional. Reality, you look like a zombie. Comfort, you look like a model. Guess which one people post online? People don't want reality and entertainment either. Reality is people going to work paying bills, cleaning toilets. That doesn't sell. What sells? Superheroes, magic kingdoms, crime dramas where the case gets solved in an hour. Reality is messy, slow, and unresolved. Comfort is neat, exciting, and over in 60 minutes with commercial breaks. That's why Netflix makes billions and C-SPAN has about 6 viewers, all of them asleep. And look at blame when it comes to money. People go broke, and instead of admitting they spent more than they earned, they blame the economy, the banks, the government, their horoscope, their neighbor's cat, anybody but themselves. People would rather believe there's a secret cabal designed to keep them poor than admit they bought a car they couldn't afford. Reality says budget better. Comfort says it's the system screwing you. Comfort wins every time. Even in science denial, comfort and blame rule. Climate change. Reality says we're all contributing to it, and it's going to take hard work to fix. People don't want that. Too scary. Too much responsibility. Instead, they say it's a hoax, or it's the government lying, or it's China's fault. Comfort, blame, repeat. Anything but reality. The funny thing is, people actually know deep down what reality is. They just don't like it. They hide from it with excuses, stories, rituals, and scapegoats. Reality is like eating raw broccoli. You know it's good for you, but you'd rather cover it in cheese or deep fry it until it's unrecognizable. That's comfort. Reality is broccoli. Humans want nachos. And if the nachos give them heartburn, they'll blame the cook.